It's my pleasure to welcome today Dr. John Weil. He is a graduate of the College of William and Mary and of Mr. Jefferson's University, where he received his PhD. He is a professor of political science, and counting both the directors and deans, he is the 5th dean or director of the University Honors College here at MTSU, and has been in that role now for, what is it, 13?
This is 15.
15 years. 15 years. So it has been and continues to be a pleasure for me to work with Dean Weil. If you've visited the executive suite upstairs, if you've ever ventured into Dean Weil's office, you'll see that there are often piles of books and papers. I can say without exaggeration that he is the most prolific researcher and writer whom I know. And I know a lot of people in the world of academia. I consider myself to be an active scholar. And I think I am. Dr. King is an active scholar, but compared to Dean Weil, anyway, he has written, published, and edited over 50 books. That's not hyperbole. I don't know what the exact number is, but his books include books on the history of the Honors College, which we hope to launch in a few weeks, and he has written numerous scholarly articles, books, chapters, and book reviews on topics related to the Founding Fathers, the U.S. Constitution, the U.S. Supreme Court, American historical documents, evangelical presidents, the constitutional amending process, religion and politics, presidential speeches. We could spend all afternoon just enumerating the various topics that he's written on, but we won't do that. He also served as an MTSU mock trial coach for 25 years. And he is currently a co-editor and regular contributor to the online First Amendment Encyclopedia. I can tell you that no one works harder than Dean Weil. He's here when we arrive. He's usually here when we leave. His door is always open, as is mine, and we're here for you. So please welcome Dean Weil.
Let's start with the trivia question. Anybody know who Lew Wallace was? Name ring a bell? No. Okay, he wrote a very famous book that became a very famous movie. Ben-Hur, the author of Ben-Hur. So my wife, when I came in, I saw the wife and I said, "Behold the wife of my youth." And then I added, "who abides with me still." And the reason I did that is I also, in addition to writing, I collect old books. And so I found a copy of Ben-Hur this week. It's probably not the first edition, but it's an early edition. And the way I know is that his first editions said, "to the wife of my youth." And people from all over the country wrote to him and said they were so sorry that he had lost his wife. And he realized that was not the message that he wanted to convey. So in subsequent editions, within a year or two, he started saying, "to the wife of my youth who abides with me still." And I'm very grateful that my wife abides with me still. So what I want to do today is talk a little bit about this book that's coming out, supposed to be out by the 22nd. Which is about when I was going to speak, but that's fine. I'm glad to be able to fill in for Dr. McCash. So here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm just going to go roughly through a timeline. Now, the original timeline goes all the way back, Robin, to what? like
300
322 BC or something. I found the first university established in the world, and then I tried to put us in that context. If you've ever, do you remember, if any of you have ever seen, what is it, Our Town, where somebody addresses a letter to so-and-so in this town, in this street, in the United States, and in the world, or whatever. In any event, we're going to look at the timeline a little bit. Then I'm going to talk about why I think, or what some of the metrics are for deciding if an honors college is or is not successful. I'm going to sort of push it to the side that says ours is. And then at the end of that, when I get through with that, I want to give you a chance, if we have some time, to tell me what you would like, changes you would like to see in the honors college. And you may want to think about that as a future assignment or something. We have our annual Board of Visitors meeting on the 22nd. And one of the things that I always try to do there is, look ahead. What are some of the things that we would like to do? I can tell you one of the things I would like is a donation of about $15 to $20 million so I can build a new palace for myself. No, a new residence hall closer to the Honors College, sort of a living learning center. That's sort of the big ticket item I have in mind. But there may be other things that I haven't thought of that would be good to talk to the board. So let's start with just a little preview of the history of the Honors College. And we're not going to go back to BC. We're going to do founding of the university as a normal school, two-year school, back in 1911. And now we're going to put a little bit of context. First honors sort of program that I've been able to identify was a great books program that was started at Columbia University in 1920. Somebody might choose a different date, but that's a pretty good one. And then MTSU. Came Middle Tennessee Teachers College, sort of a step up in terms of the naming opportunity, to a 4-year curriculum. Then we become Middle Tennessee State College, and you know where we go from there. Middle Tennessee State University since 1965, and now we go back to honors context. Honors, sort of the first programs maybe about 1920. By 1966, there was a National Collegiate Honors Council was formed. We're still a member of that today. My own experience, by the way, with honors colleges goes back sort of to 1969. I was invited to apply to an honors college and didn't get in. But next year, one of my English teachers recommended me, and I can remember 4 distinct honor seminars that I had, and the fact that I can remember what they are suggests that they were somewhat meaningful to me. 1968, now this precedes our founding, but we eventually get collage, so it's important to know that it was established before we were, and just a couple years ago we had our 50th anniversary celebration of that. 1973, and 2 weeks from now, your next lecture, Dr. June McCansh will be your speaker. She probably won't tell you this, but she really is a tour de force. She established an honors program at a time where very few women, to my knowledge, were involved in honors education in the United States. She served from 1973 to 1980, became chair of the Foreign Language Department. And one of the things that is so exciting about Dr. McCansh, and this hopefully will be the same for me, she's published either 4 to 6 books since she retired. A couple novels, and they're pretty good reads, by the way, particularly the one on Eleanor of Aquitaine, which is about a 500 or 600 page tome. She has a couple of books on Georgia, has a book on the Titanic. Sort of a love story, very, very fine book. And she continues, she's on our Board of Visitors and continues to support the college. I don't know that we have a picture of Ms. Wilgus, but she's still here locally. Our first honors thesis ended up getting a PhD from Vanderbilt, and is it her son, Robin, right, who teaches at the university today, or is
Son-in-law.
affiliated? Pardon?
Son-in-law.
Son-in-law. Okay. So, 1973. This most people don't know about. I didn't know about it when I started reading. But for either a semester or a year, Dr. McCash, I believe, was in Paris, foreign languages, and Dr. Bill Wyndham in the history department was an interim director for that. Then we go to the second director, Dr. Ron Messier. He's the only one of the former directors and deans who's passed away. Another great figure here. He was in the history department. He was an archaeologist. He uncovered a couple new cities, well, uncovered some old cities that we hadn't previously known about in Morocco, and was actually given a certificate by the Moroccan government classifying him as a national treasure. So that shows the kind of not only national but international reputation that he had. He stayed in the program, I believe, until 1990. Dr. Buchanan, a lot of you have heard his name. He wasn't in the Honors College at MTSU because he graduated before we had an honors program, but he came from humble beginnings locally, ended up leaving here, getting a degree from University of Tennessee, getting his PhD from University of Chicago, became a Nobel laureate in 1986. And he gave us the right to use his name for our most important scholarship, the Buchanan Fellowship, and subsequently left us a very big chunk of money after he died. And that's why we're able to continue this program. This is important. I don't want to sound too much like a preacher. You don't all have to tithe to me or anything like that. God won't necessarily bless you, double your money that you give us, but it is important to give back. If you think your education, and it doesn't have to be to us, but if you get a good education at MTSU, remember us, and especially if you've gotten a scholarship. If you have a scholarship, somebody probably gave at least $25,000 to endow that scholarship. And that means that they care about you and your education and want you to be thinking about doing the same. Again, one way to start small, by the way, when you graduate, they will ask you to give a gift. And usually they'll ask to give it the year you graduate. So, this year they ask people to write a check or give $20.83. It'll be another penny or two by the time that you graduate, but that's a good start. I shouldn't tell you this, but we did have one graduate, and his name will go unmentioned. But I get a monthly report of gifts, and I got somebody had given $1, and I looked at that and said, "What is going?" Then I realized he wanted to be recognized at graduation, so he gave his $1 contribution. I hope he gives more later. Maybe maybe he can pay us the other $19 and however many cents, 23 cents a little bit later. In any event, Dr. Buchanan, Phi Kappa Phi, many of you know we are intimately involved with both Omicron Delta Kappa and Phi Kappa Phi on our campus, so that has almost always been a part of us. Now, I don't know why we don't have JP's, Dr. Montgomery's picture here, but I believe, I'm trying not to steal Dr. McCash's thunder because I believe she's already gotten pictures of each of the directors. He was from the English department, very sort of hip fellow. Drove a motorcycle, didn't have a variety of ties that I do, but otherwise probably a lot more flamboyant, but a very fine teacher. And he was here, I believe, he actually was here for 14 years, if I recall correctly, and he was here during the time of transition from an honors program to an honors college. And there we go, 1998 is when that happened. We're going to talk a little bit about scholarships. Ryan Durham has, by the way, improved with age. He is now an attorney. He was our first Phi Kappa Phi scholarship winner. That's a $5,000 to $7,000 scholarship. My daughter was a recipient of one of those when she was here. So then this is one of our big turning points. About our 25th anniversary, thereabouts, Paul Martin, our first graduate, and his brother, Lee Martin, offered $2 million to the university if the university would match it to establish this building. And Dr. McPhee, one of the first things he did as president was raise that money, and the consequences are that you're still benefiting from it. 2001, Dr. McPhee joins in this effort to raise some money. 2003 also, American Democracy Project, which is now housed here, was brought to our campus. And also some of you know about our CALA, the Center for Accelerated Language, was also added in that year. This building opened in 2004, and not long after, Dr. Phil Mathis, my immediate predecessor, was named dean. He also is a scholar. He got the first Career Achievement Award at MTSU, and there's something about when people retire from this position, they just can't stop. Dr. Messier, to my knowledge, never wrote a book when he was at MT. Well, rather, he wrote books and never had the time to figure out how to get them published. After he retired, he wrote at least 3 or 4 different books. Dr. Mathis, who is a biologist, just published, I believe, either his 3rd or 4th book of poetry. So there's something about that office that apparently inspires people to write. Some of you know about our book of Counting Down. Dr. Mathis authorized that. Taylor Barnes. Any of you homeschool students? Good, good. I really love homeschool students. We find that they are as good as any that we have. They're often very self-motivated, and Taylor was one of them that proved it. He came here after 2 years, I believe, at a community college at either 13 or 14 years old, something like that. He was the first student at MTSU to get a Goldwater Award. That's an award for success in the natural sciences, and took us that long to get our first. Almost every year, we skipped about 2 years, almost every year since, we have had 1 or more students who have gotten the Goldwater Award. So we're really, really proud of that. It's also the first year that we established the Buchanan program, first year that we established our own Board of Visitors to help us with funding and other things. There you see, I don't know if the stack's quite double that now or not, but you see, I enjoy writing and editing books. I'm not quite sure why. In any event, 2009, we started this lecture series. Actually, there are at least 2 books that I know of that have grown out of this lecture series. One, we were working toward the centennial of the university in 2011, and so we did a lecture series on it, and it's quite a good book. It's a book, different chapters by different individuals. And then subsequently, Dr. Phillips has done a book on prison writings that came from another set of lectures that we did in this series. I did a trip that year, first of 2. We have the 3rd this year to, I was going to say the swamp, but Washington, D.C., historic sites in Virginia. Okay. In any event, Bart Gordon, some of you know, is an MTSU graduate, former student body president, and he, both times that we've been so far, has taken us through a very nice tour of the Capitol. Now, I don't know if they can do it now after January 6th, but what was interesting is we were taking the tour, the bus had given us a tour guide as well, and he was telling us that he was seeing places that he had never before seen, and he had been doing the job for quite a few years. So, Jasmine, give a big emphasis on our awards. They don't have anymore the USA Today all academic team, but they had like 25 people throughout the country, had her picture in USA Today, a big write-up about her. Dr. Phillips came interim and then full dean, started in 2011. Just some other milestones. I don't know that we need to go through each one of these. First study abroad, 2014 to Italy, been to Italy twice, is that right?
3 times.
3 times, and to Thailand once, going back to Italy again this summer. Andrew Martin, our first Rhodes College Rhodes Scholarship finalist. This is a bus that we had commissioned for Dr. Buchanan, which is over in the Buchanan room of the library. Collage 50th anniversary. We work with the Perry Institute, some of you know, in economics. This is one of my former students, so I got to give a little shout out to her. To my knowledge, now we do have another federal judge who graduated from MTSU. He's with the Native American Chief Court in the United States. But Katie, to my knowledge, is the first graduate that we've had who's been appointed as a U.S. District Judge. So it's District Judge, Appellate Judge, and then Supreme Court. So, and she's, as you can tell, relatively young. I think she was appointed like at 34 or something like that 2 or 3 years ago. So we have great hopes still for her. So that gives sort of a thumbnail sketch of history. And now what I want to do is I want to tell you what I think has contributed to what I believe to be a fairly successful program. So if you were to ask me, how do you judge whether you have a good program or not, these are some of the things that I would tell you. And the first is, and I don't have a slide on this, but you know, for good salesmanship, I probably should go back to that first slide, right? So you see that picture of the book and you think, I need to start saving up so I can buy a copy of that, right? Get some of the Honors College money back that we spent on it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that slide. So first I would say it really helps to have strong administrative support, strong administrative and faculty support. And you need to know when the Honors College was established, and Dr. McCash will tell you this, there was some opposition. People said, why should we have smaller classes for people that are already doing well? They're doing well enough, let's just leave them alone. Now that was before, I should say, before you had a lot of emphasis on gifted education in the high schools and whatever, but there was some pushback. And she made the argument, and she got very good support. Dr. Scarlett, I believe, MG Scarlett was the president at the time. And he offered really strong support for establishing that program. And you need to know we still have some very strong supporters on this campus. We, for the past couple years, have had great difficulty getting introductory courses in the College of Media and Entertainment. And this year, Dr. Katie Foss and one of those departments stepped forward. We did either 4 or 5 sections that we otherwise would not have had if we had not had her support. And she's just emblematic of many other people on campus who have stepped forth to teach honors courses for us. I've already mentioned that one of the first things that Dr. McPhee did as president was to work to get that $2 million matching money for the Honors College. So we've been really blessed to have administrative support. And then secondly, quality of facilities. This, I think, is a pretty nice, people still like to come from other places on campus. This is a great spot when we have high school classes in to sit in this class and be able to talk to them. And we have had several years back, Western Kentucky University has a pretty good honors program. And they came and visited before they started their building to see what it was, how we did it and what we liked. I have one quarrel with this building, and that is I wish my office were on the first floor. I like seeing, health-wise, it's a good thing it's on the second. In fact, if you want me to last another 10 years, you probably ought to put me on the third, and then I'll have to, climb more steps. Except if you add 4, then I'm going to use the elevator, so it won't work very well. But in any event, we're really proud of our facilities. A lot of programs measure their success by how many students they have. And I'm not going to name the university, but fellow Tennessee University called me, emailed me a couple years ago, and they said, we think we're the largest honors college in the state. And they gave me a number, and I said, well, I think you're right. I think you have more students participating in honors than we do. I don't think that's terribly significant, but we do have, any one semester, we have a little over 1,000 seats that are filled. Probably about 850 of you at any one time are in honors. That's a, you know, you don't want to make it, we want to make it exclusive enough that it's a member of a club you want to be in, right? You make it open to everybody, then, you know, okay, everybody's in honors. Like Wobegon. We know you're all above average, so there are numbers. And one of the things, you know, when you talk about who you have in an honors college, you also want to look at diversity. Do you have racial minorities? Do you have men and women? Do you have a lot of majors, minors? And we do. And one advantage, and I'm not sure how many of you appreciate this, but you know, no, we're not yet Harvard or Yale. We're working on that. But we have a lot of signature programs on this campus that attract people not simply from Middle Tennessee, which is our primary emphasis, but throughout the region and even the nation. Equine science, the aerospace program, the new concrete industry management program. We're strong, I think, in the arts. There are, what, 130, is that right? Different majors. There are a lot of majors here. One of my daughters came here. She started in piano. She considered changing either to geology or chemistry, ended up graduating in French and pre-law. Is now a lawyer. Okay, but the point of it was, that happens to a lot of you, right? You come in, and in fact, am I remembering right, Dr. Phillips, you had a son who entered college, and he set a record, right? How long did it take him?
A couple of hours.
Yeah, a couple of hours. He went in, I forget, was it biology? He was going to major in biology, and within 2 or 3 hours, he switched his major to history. And the beauty of a place like this is, you know, if you want to switch, there are plenty of good programs. There are lots of options for you. We have a good scholarship program, I think. The guaranteed scholarships, you know, anybody who has a 23 or above on the ACT and a 3.5, you're going to get a scholarship as long as you apply by December 1st of your senior year. And of course, within the Honors College, we have the Buchanan Fellowship for our freshmen. We have our Honors Transfer Fellows for those who are coming here with 60 or more. Now, number and sizes of classes. We don't have as many as I would like. There's some departments that are just stretched very thin. But I do have a question that I want you to think about, because I've done something that wasn't by the book this year, and I think I'm going to have to bring it before the Honors Council. I exercise executive discretion. But we had some people who said, we just can't afford classes of 20 for intro, and I said, well, what if I give you 25? Well, at first I said, well, how many do you have in a regular section? And they said, well, anywhere from 75 to 150. And I said, well, the comparative advantage, if you can give us some classes of 25, we're going to try that as an experiment. So if any of you are in those classes, let me know how it goes. I don't think there's going to be a major difference. You know, typically we say no more than 15 in an upper division, no more than 20 in a lower division. But I think we may, now we can in this building, by the way, because all our classrooms other than this one are limited to 20 people by the size of the room. But I think we're going to show a little flexibility there to make sure that you have some introductory courses in some of these areas that otherwise you might not. Strong advising at MTSU. You know, one of the innovations of Dr. McPhee was to add approximately 50 advisors. And I don't know if you realize how fortunate you are, but one advantage of being in honors is you get not one but 2 advisors. So if you can't find one, go bug the other. And each of them is going to have a little bit different perspective, right? Your major is going to, you know, go to them to find out what the best graduate schools are that you want to go into that major. But if you want to find out how to get a Fulbright scholarship, or whether you might qualify for a Goldwater or study abroad, maybe one of the advisors here is going to be able to do a little better by you, or at least as good. So strong advising. We have a lot of supplementary opportunities. We have 3 publications that are going fairly regularly. Our news magazine, published twice a year, the literary magazine, Collage, and that, by the way, is moving largely to online. We think that's going to be better. There are certain kind of things that we can do online that we haven't been able to do in print. And we also have something some of you have seen, more like a scholarly journal, Scientia Humanitas. So if you've done some research and you're looking for a place to publish it, Dr. Phillips heads that up, and so you might talk to him about that. We have, of course, the lecture series. We've already talked about American Democracy Project, Kayla, and others. I think the star attraction of the Honors College is probably the hardest part. Hardest part to sell, and that's the honors thesis. I get a lot of people. Many are called and few are chosen, right? A lot of people come in as freshmen, and I always tell people, in fact, it's going to be on my tombstone, you can date us without marrying us. You can take a couple honors courses in your freshman and sophomore year, and if you don't do any more, you still have the advantage of the small classes. But is there something that is unique, that will uniquely prepare you, especially if you're going to graduate or professional school? Yes, that's the honors thesis. And this isn't me, this is the growth of the program, but 15 years ago we had about 20 theses a year. Right now we have about 85 to 95 a year. A lot of stuff going on, and we have a creative option, so we've had people do plays. If you want to do something really easy, we had someone write a novel this last year, which was what?
Oh, it's over 500
Yeah,
pages.
over 500 pages.
With a scholarly introduction
And
and an epilogue.
yes,
Yeah.
in any event, we had one person who retraced a trip across the country in an airplane that was taken nearly 100 years ago, all kinds of things. So we're really proud of our theses. We're particularly proud of our UFO office. Everybody know what that is?
UFO undergraduate.
Yeah, okay, you got it, okay. Not unidentified flying object, undergraduate fellowship office, you got it. Miss Laura Clifford works, she's partly an advisor, but also directs this. Now again, here's, and I'm going to read some of this to you. Our first Goldwater winner was 2007. Now almost every year we get one. Our second Fulbright was 2008. Almost every year we get 1 to 3. I think we've missed either 1 or 2 years in the whole time since. Almost every year somebody gets the Phi Kappa Phi $5,000 to $8,000 scholarship. We've had a Rhodes finalist. Regularly students get the President's, the Provo, the LaLance Awards. I try to inspire you by, when you go to the second floor, if you don't have a class there and you haven't been there, go up to the second floor. As you walk down the hall on your left and right, you will find plaque after plaque that has, these are the students who have gotten awards. And by the way, if you're in the sciences, when I was in college, I had to walk uphill to school both ways in the snow. But I did actually work 80 hours a week selling books. If you're in the sciences and you're lucky enough to get a research experience for undergraduate, they will pay you $5,000 to $7,000 plus your expenses to go to another university, study under a major professor with 10 or 12 other students. It's the best deal that I know. And this last year we had what I believe to be a record, like 7 to 9 people that we know of who got that. And this will prepare you. Another measure of success is how well do people do in graduate or professional schools. So maybe you figured that after listening to me. I was never a professor who got the highest marks when it came to student evaluations. It partly had to do with the fact that I taught constitutional law, which was considered a very difficult subject. And it bugged me for the first 3 or 4 years. And then I realized the measure of how good a class is not what your students think about it during the class, it's what do they tell you after they've been to graduate school or professional school. And if they tell you, I was as well prepared or better than other students, then you know you've done your job. And I would dare you, if you ask people who have done the thesis here and have gone to graduate and professional school, 99 times out of 100 or thereabouts, that's what they're going to tell you. They're going to say, and when we had a student this summer, she's in the classroom, Ariel, I don't think she's in this class, but she did an REU at the end of her freshman year this summer at University of Maryland. She was in there with a student from Harvard University, students from all over the country. She felt like she was prepared. That's what we're all about, success. We have, of course, the study away, study abroad programs. We have good support from alums, and I hope we have a sense of belonging here. The building helps, Lion Hall helps. We're trying to think of more activities to include people, and if you have ideas, share them with us, because we tell people this is a college within a larger university. So, challenges. What are some of the challenges we face? Well, one is, many of you are coming here with far more hours than I would like. That's a good thing, maybe for your parents, saves you a little bit of money. But if you come in with 60 hours, it's hard to graduate you with honors, because you've already taken all your general studies courses. And the same thing is true of AP, dual enrollment, a lot of other things. So that's something of a challenge, trying to figure out how to deal with that. The government has recently issued, many of you know, we've had to change our honors minor. Why? Because for most of you, and you need to get with your advisors, if you take more than 120 hours, and it's for a minor that is not required, they're going to say, we're not going to pay for it. We're not going to give you student loans. So we are trying to adapt to that situation. We have a partial solution, but it's not the best. So you might help us with that. Frankly, there's a lot more emphasis in many states on vocational training today than there is on higher education. Higher education, in my judgment, is primarily a liberal arts endeavor. I want you to be good at whatever you do. If you fly an airplane, particularly if you fly an airplane that I might be on, I want you to be a very good pilot. But I'd like you to still be able to discuss Aristotle, or modern science, or religion, or English, literature. These are the kind of fights that we have to work on. So, we have some challenges. I hope each of you, I do a lot of church work in addition to this. And I've always thought that the most important thing you get in church is it's not how many people are there, it's what influence did you have on individual lives. And one of the things I like about honors is many of you will tell me stories of how honors has been meaningful to you. And I'll give you one that sticks in my mind because it's fairly recent. Mother and daughter came here last couple months, and they wanted to go into the thesis defense room. And I took them in there, and the mother said, "You won't remember this," and I didn't actually. It was either I think it was 4 years ago, we came into this room, and you told us about ringing the bells. And my daughter said, "I'm going to do a thesis so I can ring the bells." And she had just finished her thesis. It had made a difference to her. We have a fair number of our graduates who are now working on this campus. Dr. Leah Lyons, Dean of the College of Liberal Arts, one of our graduates. We've had many others. We've had a lot of local doctors and lawyers and educators. Someday, I'm hoping that one of you will be in this position. And you'll be giving a talk maybe on the 75th anniversary. Or maybe if you hang on long enough, Maybe one of you will be invited to give the talk on the 100th anniversary of honors at MTSU. In any event, we want you all to succeed, and now I'm going to go back to preaching, if that's okay. So, you know, on our building, and this wasn't my idea, although it's a great one, and many of you have repeated the Honors Creed, right? So, what does it stress? Character, commitment, creativity, curiosity, discipline, faith, honor, and integrity. And my hope is that when you graduate from the Honors College, they won't simply be words that are written on a building. They will be virtues that you have incorporated and that you will go forth with from here. So thank you for your attention. I do want to give you a chance, if we have, I think we got at least 5 minutes. I want to give you a chance to tell me measures that you think might advance the Honors College even higher, or if we're doing something wrong, you can tell me that too. I think I'm not too thin-skinned for that. But what do you see, you know, if you were going to do what I'm going to do on the 22nd, which is speak to people. We have 120 people coming from pretty much all over to celebrate our 100th anniversary. And if they said, where do we go from here? What are some of the suggestions that you would have? How do you think we can make it even bigger or at least better? Any ideas? Yes?
Why can't we start the honors classes for dual enrollment students?
You know, I don't know, because I've tried. No, I mean, seriously, I have, and if some of you have been in dual enrollment, and you will pass that along, because I mean, it's hard, I suppose, to get someone who wants to do a regular class to begin with, and then you add honors seems a little bit, but that is an area that we would like to have, and partly because that way, I mean, think about it. If you took an honors class dual enrollment with MTSU, we're going to accept it here. So you could, and we do the same, of course, with the AP. If you have a 3 or higher, MTSU gives you credit, but if you give a 4 or 5, we give you honors credit. So that is something that we need to work on. And it has, I've worked on it, but so far I haven't been as successful as I wanted. But great idea. Somebody else? Yes?
So I work as a tour guide on campus, and honestly, this is my favorite building, and I talk about to students.
You use a Dade and Mary line,
Yes,
right?
yes, I use
Again,
that.
that's what they're going to put on my tombstone.
I usually don't say it, but if parents ask, I will say it, just because I want them to stay in honors college.
Yes.
But you said you wanted to increase in some of the class sizes, like
Yes.
how much would you like to increase?
Right. Well, what I experimented with this year on my own authority is to raise some of them from 20 to 25. I don't think I would want to go much beyond that. But again, part of it is, you know how sometimes the perfect is the enemy of the good, and if your option is a class of 85, and you're either going to have no honors classes or you're going to have one with 25, I think maybe having a class of 25 is okay. There's still a comparative advantage. You get much beyond that, I think it would be hard to do. You know, what we always say is honors courses are not designed to be harder, they're designed to be more interactive. So we need to keep them small enough that we can do that. But that's what I'm thinking about right now. And again, primarily we're doing that in the mass media and entertainment college. So if you take some of those classes, let me know. If we think we didn't hit it right, we'll go back and work on it. But we're just trying to make sure that we don't have introductory classes in every major, but we're trying to expand them to make sure that you can get an early start in honors if you want.
Probably not something to include in the tours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't.
Make sure, because some of the advantages I say is that smaller class
Yes,
sizes,
absolutely.
you get to be close with the professors, and then
Yes.
of course people always ask about the early priority registration and the thesis. So, but this is one of the big advantages that parents look at smaller classes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We definitely believe in having the smaller classes, but again, if the alternative is a class of 85 to 150, it's still a much smaller class.
Yeah, and to clarify, the ones that are writing intensive classes,
Right,
we wouldn't
they're already
advocate for
limited.
having
That's
a
right.
larger
That's right.
number, yeah.
Okay,
You
question?
kind of already touched on this, but
Yeah.
more availability in the sciences for honors courses.
And
because that's
they
something
fill
I've
up so
struggled quite a bit.
fast. No, they do.
Yeah.
Now, most of you know right about the honors option.
Yes,
So
like your honors contract.
in an honors contract. In an upper division class, you can do that and that will help. But you're right, and again, you know, I was a department chair for 19 years here before I became a dean. And so I'm sympathetic when people say we are just stretched so thin that we can't find another course. But I'm with you on that. I would like, and again, convey that to your advisor, you know, because it's not always top down. It's, you know, this is a very responsive institution to students. And if you tell them what you want, if they, you know, if we can do it, the university's pretty good about trying to do it. Somebody else? Yes.
One thing that I really, really enjoyed that the Honors College put on this year was constituting my undergraduate research class as my upper honors division.
Yes.
Which was wonderful because it found that loophole without having to do on the student side that
Right.
extra maneuvering of setting up my own honors classes with that instructor. So that was a really great advocacy that y'all did that also can further encourage us to get into
Yes.
that research. But one thing for the Honors College that I didn't find here, for me, because about being an honorable citizen, employing all those disciplines that we want, like I was searching for service opportunity to grow my character, to grow
Okay.
my discipline, to grow my own. And so when I reached out to my honors advisor this summer, that was one thing that I was seeking for is thank you so much for the opportunities that I'm getting here. What more can I do on my side without monetary investment
Okay.
to
And one answer, by the way, both of the honor societies that we have, Phi Kappa Phi and Omicron and Delta Kappa, do usually have some service projects. Sometimes it'll be habitat, sometimes it'll be a cancer walk or race or whatever, but that's.
But there's nothing service oriented for the honors college specifically.
Dr. Evans,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Well, American Democracy Project for sure. I mean, and in fact, she was here when I left the other night putting up signs all over campus for Constitution Day. So there is a fair, you know, voter registration, that kind of thing.
I just think involvement in service with the honors college would be a really good thing for our scholarship applications and to increase fellowship.
And we do, you know, particularly with the Buchanan and transfer fellows, we do, you know, we say we're interested in service, and we don't care if it's to school, to church, community, whatever. We do try to get, but you're right. That's an area we could definitely improve. Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
No.
I was wondering, like, the Phi Kappa Phi and the Omicron Delta, how exactly do you get involved, or where could I find more information on this? Because I don't know about anybody else, but I get, like, a lot of spam from, like,
Right.
organizations saying they're an honors thing, and I can't tell what's real from
I
what's
still
spam.
get things saying you can be a member of an honor society, and they
Yeah.
don't even, you know, the honor society.
Yeah, and I'm, like, scared
And
of
that
missing
one
out.
reason that we do these two are, they're basically, well, the basic rule is this. Usually there'll be an honor society within your discipline. And that you typically find out from your advisor. It's always good to get in one of those. And then I would say there are three others that are nationally known: Phi Kappa Phi, ODK, and Phi Beta Kappa. We don't have Phi Beta Kappa here because it's primarily for smaller liberal arts schools. But they are, you can't go wrong with any of those. And there may be some, you know, there's one, I think, that there's an honor society for people at the end of the freshman year who have really excelled. That's a pretty good honor society. But you're wise not to just spend your money on any of them. Some of them, and particularly, you know, Phi Kappa Phi is as good as any of them in giving scholarship awards, you know, for their students, and we've been very successful with that.
Thank you.
I think I saw another hand, yes.
One more really good thing that I cannot stress enough, and I know you guys talk about it a lot, is just the UFO. Like fellowship office is incredible. No matter what you're looking into, whether it be study abroad, general scholarships, looking forward for career things, like they'll they'll help you write essays for scholarships. They will proofread them for you. They will help you like make a resume. It's an incredible resource that I think is very underutilized, that I myself wasn't super aware of until last year.
And you know, one of the things that I should have had in the timeline, you know, about 4 years ago, MTSU was recognized by the Princeton Review as one of, I think there are 387 or something, colleges in the nation. That was a major accomplishment. And I don't know, you know, I'd love to take all the credit for it, but I'm sure, you know, the university as a whole, the size and whatever. But I think some of it has got to be, you know, you get a USA Today winner, you get a Rhodes finalist, you consistently get Fulbrights and Gilmans and critical language studies. This raises the profile of the university, so very, very much. Okay, they always say that you never want to get between the dean and food. And I suspect that you never want to get between undergraduates and into class. So I think we've probably gotten about to the end of class.
All right, thank you,
before I
John.
get cut off.
All right, next week we'll see you at Tucker Theater.